Get this out of here. What if I told you were being cheated? I'd be angry as well. That portable SSDs are being sold at crazy prices. Well, this is how I make and use dirt cheap portable SSDs. First off, you're gonna need to pick an SSD. For myself, I have a Samsung 870 EVO 500GB, which is a 2.5-inch SATA SSD. For myself, it cost around 95 New Zealand dollars. I got mine because it has a DRAM cache and it's pretty reliable. You can also pick an NVMe M.2 SSD that will be a lot quicker and smaller. It's up to you, and I would refer to an SSD tier list and a video from Linus explaining what DRAM cache is for an SSD. For example, I got my PNY CS1031 1TB NVMe M.2 SSD on special for $89, which is dirt cheap. It's in my PC at the moment, so I won't be using it in this video. Secondly, head off to AliExpress and search HDD or SSD enclosure. If you have a 2.5 SATA SSD that you purchase, then you will need to pick one that fits it. If you have an NVMe M.2 SSD, then you'll need to get one that fits it. M.2 SSDs are smaller in size, and sometimes you can get the enclosures with a USB Type-C connector as well. On a small side note, Oracle is a pretty reliable brand for SSD enclosures as well. Mine personally is a generic brand, and I've listed it in the description, as well as the Oracle NVMe M.2 enclosure. Weighing up the cost, the enclosure cost me $10 New Zealand and the SSD cost me 95 New Zealand. That totals around about 105 New Zealand dollars. The most comparable SSD would be a portable one from Samsung, being the T7 and a 500GB variant. This is around about 129 New Zealand dollars, so here we've saved about 24 New Zealand dollars. You could even go cheaper with other SSD options such as a Crucial MX500 for around about 69 New Zealand dollars, or even a cheaper 1TB NVMe SSD drive, such as the one I suggested earlier, being the PNY 1TB one that I got for a really good price of 89 New Zealand dollars. One other big difference is that my Samsung 870 EVO has a 5-year warranty in New Zealand, and the Samsung T7 500GB only has a 3-year warranty. So it's a big differentiating factor of around about 2 years. Now that's up to you to decide, but I think the 5-year warranty is a little bit better over 3 in my opinion. To set it up, it's pretty easy. Open up the enclosure. Mine literally clicks open with no screws. There's a little tab that you press to open it up. Place the SSD inside, aligning the connectors up correctly, or you can remove the small circuit board carefully to plug in the SSD. Once done, make sure the SSD fits snugly in the enclosure with the outside connectors within their cutout holes, and you're done for the SATA SSD. For an M.2 SSD, you will want to refer to the video in the description, but verbally open up the enclosure and place the M.2 SSD in the slot. It should be sticking upwards at an angle. You should then need to press down on it, and a screw needs to be screwed down at the back part of it to close it up, and it should be sitting flat. Once you've done that and closed up the enclosure, it's all done. My DIY portable SSD looks pretty good, but how does it perform? I have the 870 EVO in this enclosure connected to my PC via USB 3.2. I also have the same 870 as my boot drive for my local Windows install as well. When you plug in your external SSD into your computer, nothing may show up. This is because a partition has not been formatted yet. So to do that, press the Windows button and type in partitions, and click on create and format hard disk partitions. It will take a second to load depending on how many devices you have connected, and you will want to find the drive that you plugged in. So mine is under removable K disk 10, and I know it's the correct size here because I know this one in particular was a 114 gig USB stick that I'm using as an example here. It will be exactly the same for your external SSD. You want to right click it here and click new simple volume. The wizard should show up, press next and make sure the Simple volume is the same as the maximum. Click next, assign it to whatever drive letter, change it to NTFS for Windows. You can change it to exFAT if you want to, but I'd probably recommend putting it as NTFS. Then the label volume, you can put whatever you like for the name. Once you've done that, click next and finish. It will format the drive and it should pop up automatically, like it should give you a window to open, and your drive is all ready to use on Windows. If you're using a Mac, I will put a video in the description on how to format a drive for a Mac OS X machine as well. Let's compare how long it takes to copy and paste a 1.3 GB video file from my NVMe SSD and a Crystal DiskMark benchmark. The video file to copy from the NVMe drive to the Enclosure and local SSD is really quick, and it takes a similar amount of time. Copying the same file back to the NVMe SSD is also super quick on both the Enclosure and the local SSD. The local SSD is only slightly faster than the Enclosure one. For the Crystal DiskMark benchmark, the Enclosure SSD is just over 50% slower compared to the local SSD on most of the benchmarks that you see here. I still think this is a great result, and also considering that in the real world tests it's very similar. That's how I install my own SSDs in Enclosure, for a cheaper alternative to buying an actual portable SSD. Also considering that you'll have a longer warranty in some instances, and your performance losses are not too bad at all. That about sums it up. Check out wirestech.org for some more awesome content. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!